Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to One Israel Fund's 5th webinar in our series. There was supposed to be sound attached to that little commercial, so I'll tell you a little bit about what One Israel Fund does. We've been around for 25 years, basically providing whatever is needed in Yehuda v'Shomron to the residents living in Judea and Samaria during this crazy time that we're all going through now when tourists have not been able to come to Israel. I'm Director of Tourism for One Israel Fund. So we've come up with other things to do to connect you to Yehuda v'Shomron. One of them, of course, is our virtual tour series, and I hope that you've been seeing that. If not, you can sign up for our mails. You can get them on our Facebook page. You can see them. All of our content is free and available to all of you. And we have this webinar series bringing experts in Israel from Israel to you with the ability for you to be able to interact and ask them questions. So we had international lawyer, Dr. Avi Bell on, Mayor Buchnik was on after him, former Defense Minister Naftali Bennett joined us to speak about what he's now doing in a very oppositional opposition. Brigadier General Amir Avivi and his organization, Habitchonistim. And tonight, I'm really, really honored to welcome Sara Haetzni-Cohen, very well-known in Israel, very well-known Israeli journalist. I'll read to you, even though I'm sure that you all got it, some of her other, just a small part of what she's accomplished in not such a long time. She's still very young. She has a weekly column in Makor Rishon and other media outlets. She heads the grassroots My Israel organization and focuses on developing young Jewish leadership in the diaspora, something that I thought you all might be interested in. Has degrees in communication, business management, and MA in public policy, and in 2016 was awarded the prestigious Moskowitz Prize for new initiatives. She's also raising 4 young children, which is why we're doing this at 9 o'clock at night in Israel, because they are asleep. And what I'd like to talk to Sara about as we start is that she grew up in Kiryat Arba. And if there are royal families when it comes to the people who first came to resettle Yehuda v'Shomron after the 1967 war, then the Haetzni family definitely ranks among them, people who came when it was very, very difficult and really established the Jewish community to a great degree in the Kiryat Arba Hebron area. So Sara, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
All right, so tell us maybe since we started about your hyphenated middle name. So it had to have affected the person that you became, the activist that you are, the journalist, the tremendous Zionist, but also, like, as they say in Hebrew, like there's no, making everything sound, oh, glorious and idealistic, very much realistic, especially in your column, reporting on what is happening in Israel. So what was it like growing up in Kiryat Arba in the 80s, the 90s, when things weren't as developed as they are today?
So basically, I am who I am because of my family and because of the place where I grew up. And today I live in Jerusalem. And as you said, I'm raising 4 kids. But my personality and my activity and, my everything I do is rooted very strongly in my past and in my family history and in my activity. I do everything I do today, and I write. It comes from this background of growing up in Kiryat Arba, which is a small community next to Hebron. Growing up there, I was born before the first Intifada. You see, I'm very old. Yeah, so I grew up, I was born in 1983, and I was born to, this environment of, we live here because we believe that we need to be here. We don't think it's gonna be easy. We don't think it's gonna be, heaven, or, it's not gonna be convenient, but it's important for us to be here. And around our Shabbat table, so we we do Kiddush, we make Kiddush, and then we're not observant, so we open TV, and then we talk politics, and we talk about ideology, and we talk about, it's throughout my whole life, from my ever since I remember myself. And being a girl, I was around, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old when the first Intifada erupted. And it changed our life dramatically. And then to deal with it and to learn how to live with it and how to fight and how to grow life. My parents we're three siblings, and they grew us up in this environment. In two big challenges. The first challenge is, we're not religious, and Kiryat Arba is more to the religious population. And so this is my first challenge as I remember myself. And the second one is all you hear in the news is about the Oslo agreements and the Intifada and the first Intifada and the second Intifada and in between, and your housing is under danger. And so it really created who I am now to deal with these challenges.
Mm-hmm. So your grandfather, Eliakim Haetzni, was a member of Knesset. Did that,
Yeah.
do you remember those years? Do you remember?
Yeah, definitely.
He was in the heart of everything that was going on then. Pre-Oslo, as you said, the terrorism wars that started, as you said, in 1987 and continued really all through the 90s into the early 2000s, continued to some degree until today. It's not in the headlines and we don't have nearly on the level that we used to have, but there are still things happening.
Yeah, of course. Every time I go to my parents, like our car, so now we have a car with plastic windows, but when I don't know, 2 years ago, we didn't have the same car. So every time we wanted to visit my parents, my family, and my grandfather, we had to change cars because, it's dangerous to go on the road with 4 kids in the back of my car and, rocks and Molotov cocktail and etc. So it's not heaven and you don't hear it on the news, but thanks God it's better than the years before.
Right, thank God. Thank God it's much better. So what was that like? And did you feel special that your grandfather is a member of Knesset? Were you treated differently, or you wouldn't know because you weren't treated another way? But what was that like to know that what was happening around your Shabbat table? And I just have to say, for those of you who are listening, and Sara self-defines herself as not an observant family. And we've spoken about this before, that even people who define as not observant have Shabbat and have a lot of the Jewish rituals and accoutrements that you would only find in outside of Israel, perhaps, in people who define themselves differently. So that's a very Israeli thing that I just wanted to mention. But how was that to maybe hear some things of a conversation he had with somebody who's very famous that maybe you couldn't repeat? Did that make you feel special, or was it a burden, knowing that he was right in the thick of things?
So I admire my grandfather and my grandmother, Zichrona Livracha. She passed away around 1.5 years ago. And I admire them, really. I think that they made the impossible happen. They went to Kiryat Arba, which was not Kiryat Arba before, and they founded it, and they forced the government to decide that we want to renew the Jewish community in Hebron. It was not easy. They left everything behind them. They used to live in a brand new house in the center of the country, and they just decided that they are going to this mission as a family. They left everything behind them and just entered a small apartment in this nowhere. Really, there was nothing in there. Today, there are around 8,000 residents, and you have, grocery, you have whatever, bank. It was not, they had nothing really. They had Arabs, they had security threat. It was really cold in the winter. So I really admire them. And I think that I'm lucky to grow up in this kind of family. Was it easy? It was never easy, because when as I said before, we're not observant. And when I got to the 9th grade, so I had to choose whether I'm going to a ulpana, like only girls'
A
school,
girls' high school.
or to go back and forth every day to Jerusalem because I didn't want to learn in a religious, place.
Mhm.
And I decided I want to go every day to Jerusalem.
Wow.
Now, when you come to the big city with this sign on your forehead, so that you live in Kiryat Arba, which is not very common, and you live, and your grandfather is Haetzni, which is, I'm not going to hide it. So you get special attention from some of the teachers, some of the staff. The kids less, but from the staff. But I mean, I grew up, and I'm very proud of it. Even in university, I was treated sometimes, I don't know if special for good or for bad, but it was not always positive. But you're always the granddaughter of.
Right.
So, okay, but I'm happy to be the granddaughter of. I'm very proud of them. So I grew up, and I grew up my own personality and activity, and I'm very active, and I'm writing, and I have my opinions and everything. But I have my grandfather here, and my family here, and I'm very happy for it.
Yeah. So how did you get into journalism?
So I think it was 4 years ago. I went to this journey of ideas. I had an idea, and I offered it to Makor Rishon. Makor Rishon is the newspaper where right now I never wrote there before, and I offered the main editor to take this project and to give me, a weekly kind of column. It was more than today, to give me his newspaper, just to put my project in. And the project was, I interviewed different people from, that have this vision of Eretz Israel, Ashlema, or
Greater
they
land
don't
of Israel.
believe.
Right.
Sorry, yeah, and they
Greater
don't
land of Israel.
yeah. They don't believe in the two-state solution as we learned it until today. So I wanted to ask them, what is your vision? I mean, you're against the two-state solution, and you don't think that it's the right thing to do, and so you don't want to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority, and you also don't want to withdraw unilateral like we did in Gaza. So what do you want? Okay, so I thought it's very important that the political right of Israel will have a vision, will have plans, different plans about the conflict. So we lived, one Australian reporter once asked me, so what were you waiting for? Where were you in the 90s, in the beginning of the 2000s? And I said, you know what? I'll tell you where were we. We conducted a battle of defense against this very dangerous plan of the two-state solution. We fought, and we had this, it's a heroic battle against it. And we never stopped for a minute, and we didn't have the chance to stop and then say, you know what, what's our solution? What do we offer? And then after the Oslo Agreement collapsed, and after the disengagement just blew up in our faces, it's our turn to give a vision and plans, even if they're not perfect. So I went with this idea, and I went and interviewed different people, including Caroline Glick and Naftali Bennett and Yoaz Hendel and Professor Israel Uman, who won the Nobel Prize, and my own grandfather. And I asked them, what's your vision to 50 years from now, 60 years? And then every week they put my interview on the newspaper. And then I gave birth to my third I think I did something like 8 or 9 these,
I remember
articles.
that series. Yeah.
And then I gave birth to my third child, Nitzan, and I stopped. I mean, it was a project. I didn't want to continue with it forever. And then goodbye. I went to my own, different works that I did. And then I got a phone call a year after from the main editor saying, you know what? Why don't you give me a glimpse about how, like, summarize your journey now, a year after. So I put this summarize my article, and then I got a phone call from the editor asking me to put a weekly column in their newspaper. Yeah. Long story short.
It's a terrific column. And look, one of the things that that bothers me about a lot of people outside of Israel is that the news that you're getting is obviously going to be in English or whatever language it is that's your native language. And if you're not reading the new, and some people are translated, although Makor Rishon doesn't, then you're not really getting to the heart of a lot of things that are happening here. And based on that, I wanted to ask you though, one of the big news items in the last few days in the United States and really around the world, I would say, has been the resignation of Bari Weiss from the New York Times. And more than just her resignation is the reason for it, and the feeling that there's no really freedom for freedom of journalism now, freedom of the press in the United States. There's this groupthink, and that's it. Do you think, I don't want to talk about what's happening outside of Israel. I want to specifically focus on Israel. Do you think that there's a similar situation here now that you really are a journalist, you've got a weekly column, and every single week you focus on a different topic? Are you worried about the situation here, or do you think that there still is the ability here to freely express your opinion, even if it's not a popular one, but you can do so?
The answer is yes. I think it's I think it's very different from what's happening in the States. I mean, I'm not following strictly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I heard about Bari right. Weiss, and I followed her story and everything, but I'm not familiar with all the mm-hmm. The little details. I think that situation in Israel in the media is better than it was before. Okay, so I grew up in the 90s, and then we had only 3 channels. It right. was blocked to everything, and there was no competition, and 3 channels that the government funded it, and they were all extreme left wing, both in radio and TV. So I grew up in this feeling that someone is always shutting my mouth, really, and I'm paying for it. I mean, my parents' taxes are paying for someone to just eliminate my opinion, my way of thinking, my life, mm-hmm. everything. They didn't even see us, I mean, it was horrible. And then they opened the market a bit. So today we have Israel Hayom, and we have Makor Rishon, and we have, I mean, there's a change.
Sheva already for many years.
Yeah. Sheva was only like a radio station. Today they have a newspaper, and they have a website, very right. flourishing. I mean, so things are changing, and social media has a very main job in changing the media here in Israel, because suddenly we have a mouth. I mean, right. we can talk, we can criticize. So take the big, I don't know how big it is, the demonstrations against the government, against Bibi Netanyahu here. So yesterday's night, I was on my way back from my parents-in-law in Ma'alot, in the north of the country, to Jerusalem, and I was, I followed everything from Twitter, and so TV and all the radio stations just started to broadcast from the demonstrations, and they said mm-hmm. their headline was Medina b'mecha'a, like the whole, just translated.
Country's angry. Yes, an angry country.
Yeah, angry country. Now I'm also angry. Okay, I don't think it's the same anger they have, but just, I mean, it's a few thousands of protesters. very noisy, and it's the same like click, whatever, from the same people who broadcast. So they put this framing, and everyone on Twitter just, boosted them and said, it's not the whole country. There's a challenging situation, but don't sell us lies. And we criticize them. We have a mouth. We have voice. We can shout. It was not before. When I grew up, it was just they erased us. So I don't think we're now in an ideal situation when it's even, left and right, but we're getting, it's better than it was before.
It's interesting because it seems like the United States started off well with a balance and people were at least felt free to share their opinions, and now they're going the other way. And here in Israel, the trajectory is the opposite, where we started off with more, as you said, state-sponsored organs that were giving us a certain line. And now, and I think a lot of it is due to the internet, but people do feel free to express their opinions. And Makor Rishon has really become, it's also an excellent newspaper, not just
I agree.
With its politics, I can read it and not get nauseous, but just the articles, the human interest articles, the other things that they have in there. It's really on a very high level. And it's a shame, again, that it's not in English, because I think it really gives a very nice, broad view of what's happening in Israeli society, and that's super important. But before
I agree.
And just to get back for 1 minute to the demonstrations, and I see that somebody also mentioned something, they are much more violent, though, than is being shown on the mainstream media. And I know this because one of my daughters lives not far from there, and she sent us a video last night of people streaming by her house, and there was a lot of brutality against the police, where the police were actually attacked, and people who tried to protect the police were attacked. So it seems that something is going on here, that there is a lot of obviously great distress, mainly because of Corona here and the economic situation, and a lot of people who don't know what's going to be because their businesses are closed or their restaurants keep getting closed, and there's a big mess, as there is really all over the world, trying to deal with it. But that people are jumping on board here to try and do an anti-Bibi thing, and to get rid of the prime minister, which they're trying to do anyway. And these demonstrations have some, if you want to call them anarchists, there's people in there that are really riling it up. But I'm glad at least that in Israel, they are reporting on what's really happening there. And it's not being covered up, but it's worrisome though. It could get out of hand easily, I think. I don't know.
So I don't want to put, a sticker on these demonstrations and call everyone anarchists.
No, not everyone, but there is.
I think that on the margins, you have anarchists and you have people that, they are violent and they're violent and they make, fights against the police. I think that we see it more than before. Okay. So I think that the demonstrations became more violent. Once again, we see it because of social media. You have videos and people get in there and, and just broadcast
with their
from
phone. Right.
Yeah, with their phones. Everyone of us is a reporter. So you see more violent people and occasions in the margins. You see it more. Take for example, and there are also, I have to say it just to be fair, the media is encouraging these demonstrations, no doubt about it, but there are people, different reporters that also put a focus, right focus on these violent people. So for example, I just saw in the news, there was this officer, this police officer that was injured last week in Motzei Shabbat in the demonstrations. So today, this reporter, who's not right-wing whatsoever, he went and found him and interviewed him, and apparently he broke the protesters broke his leg. If
the protesters
a settler,
broke the policeman's leg. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, if a settler would do something like this to a police officer, well, it was like the main headline of anarchy, and you're beating our soldiers and our police officers, ta ta ta. So I think that, the media is more, how to say, they forgive them, like they want to encourage these protesters, but there are reporters who tell us the truth. And the truth is that in the margins of these demonstrations, it's becoming more and more dangerous against police officers, especially against police officers. I mean, yesterday there was this torch, this is how we say, lapid.
Yeah, a torch.
Okay, so a torch, like one of the protesters, he threw a torch over a policeman.
Oh my.
I mean, and then he came today to the court and he said, well, I have no, past of anything, but okay, but you did it. I mean,
really?
You got, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the articles that I was reading over Shabbat spoke about that the left seems to feel that they're not violent and that only the right is violent. And now, many of us have known that it's not true already for a long time. And now there are some undercurrents here that, hopefully will be controlled, even with all the mess and people being distraught. Because we've had things get out of control in the past. Hasn't been good for anybody.
So I feel I just had a coffee with a friend on Thursday who's he's not holding my opinions. And I told him, don't you think that the same atmosphere today is getting more and more similar to what happened in, before the murder of Yitzhak Rabin, Zichrono Livracha? And then he said, you know what? Let me think of it. I mean, he didn't, I mean, he saw what I'm saying, So it's very extreme. It's very extreme. I mean, what their signs, and they're trying to, to burst in to the prime minister's house, and police is stopping them. But I mean, and what they write on social media, I mean, you see that the atmosphere is, after the murder of Yitzhak Rabin, they always told us that words can kill, right? So be responsible for what you're saying. So that's what I'm saying now. If you believe that words can kill, so it goes both ways. And nobody, I remember the atmosphere before Yitzhak Rabin's murder. Nobody really thought that one guy, a student, a law student, will get a gun and just go and kill our prime minister. Nobody thought about it. And the guy that yesterday just threw a torch over a policeman, he didn't thought about it also. You see, that's what he said today. He went to court and he said, I didn't do anything in the past. It's my first time, ta, ta, ta. So apparently words can kill. So that's what we're
we all have to take responsibility, I think, in every society in which we live right now, to not get to those tipping points, to make sure.
I think that they're not careful.
Well, so as a
and I also want to tell you, I think first of all they're not careful. They really think that the left is not violent, and also there is not much criticism about it, because media is not against these demonstrations.
Right.
As I said before, they are giving some spots of violence and stuff that is happening. But if they wanted, I mean, I know how it is that the media hates the demonstrations. And I know how it feels when the media wants to demonize you.
Yes,
so
most definitely. Look, you brought up the expulsion from Gush Katif, which is almost exactly 15 years ago.
Yep.
It was this time of year, was the day after Tisha B'Av, which is very soon, in just a few days. And that was definitely, there was a lot of demonizing of the Jews in Yudav Shomron, especially of Gaza then. But I think, and it's not because it's my side of the political map, that the right wing and especially the settler movement proved itself then to not be violent, because there was every reason in the book to totally lose it. Homes were being destroyed, orchards were being ripped up, people's lives were being completely wrecked, and it turns out to create a Hamas state. Okay, and people did not, even when there were opportunities, and I was there in a lot of those places, in Kfar Maimon and in Neve Dekalim in the last days, and people did not do that. They did not, even though they were losing everything. And so I think that 15 years ago, to a great degree, the right showed that it is not this violent, group of people that is very often, that's what's pinned on it. That was a very big and difficult test, and that I wish had never happened. But,
it's an open wound.
Yeah, very much so. I was thinking about it this week. It's still something that I can't believe happened, and that I think a lot of people who are responsible for it still have not paid the political price for allowing it to happen. And,
I think we always need to examine ourselves. We always need to keep an eye open on extremists, and, to put us aside from violence. And I hope that the other side is also doing it.
Do that.
But Gush Katif and the disengagement is an open wound, and we mentioned 15 years for this horrible event. Hopefully, we will have the opportunity to learn from what we did and not to do it, never again.
Yeah. But as a journalist, so you have the opportunity to also filter. Sometimes I read your articles and I think, am I reading between the lines? Like, was there something more that person said that you didn't want to put in because maybe it would cause panic or hysteria? Like, you had this last Shabbat, you had a very long interview with somebody about what's happening with Corona and where he thinks we're going with that. Your unhappiness with his conclusions was clear when you said, it looks like as the mother of 4 young children, I'm spending August pretty much in the house with my kids, all right, if we're going to some kind of closure. But do you find yourself having to maybe you interview somebody, and then before you put it down in the words that are going to be read by many, many people, rewriting or thinking again and saying, what, maybe I'll leave this line out, or maybe I won't emphasize this so much, as a responsibility to your readers and to the atmosphere it's created?
Of course. I mean, I have a weekly column. I'm not always interviewing people. This Shabbat I did, but usually I'm just, putting some of my opinions, my way of thinking. I'm deciding what issues am I going to deal with? Am I going to criticize the government? And I think we need to be responsible. I mean, I'm trying, even if I'm furious about something, okay, I'm furious about how this government is managing Corona. I think they do it horribly.
Right.
Whatever. They're not really managing it. But you need to, I don't know how to say it in English, להתלהם.
I don't either.
I don't want to shout, okay? I don't want to shout through my words. I don't want to shout through my computer. I want to get to people's mind and to give a different perspective on issues that we're having here in Israel or in the world. I don't want to shout. I don't want to put
exclamation
period.
Point. Yes.
No, yes, I do want to I do want to put 3 dots, okay, and to give my readers the opportunity to think differently or not differently, whatever, about this issue. So this is exactly what I did with the COVID. This Shabbat, I interviewed this professor. He's in Boston, actually. His name is Yanir Baryam. He's half Israeli or something like this. And he said, you have no choice but going into another closure.
Closure, yeah.
I want to cry when I think about. I want to go out camping, not just sit in my living room and camp in there. But whatever, I just want to reflect the Israelis you know, not to close their eyes, but open it and open it carefully.
So tell us a little bit about My Israel, the grassroots organization that you
So
have.
I'm also running a grassroots organization. It's called My Israel. My Israel was founded in 2010 by Naftali Bennett and Ayelet Shaked before they went into politics.
Right.
Today, we have no like political stand about what party you should go to, whatever.
You're not affiliated with anybody.
Yeah, we're not affiliated. And our main goal is to encourage people, especially Israelis, but not only, to take an action, to be involved in your life, not only by, you know, putting a sticker on your window car or, you know, or just go to demonstrate, but also through this. I mean, every one of us has cell phone, we have Facebook account, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have TikTok. I don't know, the kids that I'm volunteering with has TikTok. So everyone has like an opportunity to share information, to say their opinion, to call or to write their parliament members. And we have the opportunity to influence and to change our own life. And we're trying to find ways to give Israelis this opportunity to influence their own life and their own country. So this is what we do. We do active pro-Israel online activism. We have around 170,000 followers on Facebook. We have thousands of followers on Twitter, Instagram, email list, whatever. We every week we put in action different things about, you know, some of it can be inside of Israel, some of it can be outside of Israel. If there's a governor, not only for negative things, but also for positive things. If a governor in the States decided to fight BDS, we want the Israelis to thank him. So we give them his like contact information, and we say, we ask our followers just to say thank you, and we see it and we appreciate it. So we do it a lot. We do it when we want to encourage someone and to give him, you know, feedback, good feedback, and we do it on the opposite. When we want to say our parliament members or different parliament members around the world to stop or to do something differently.
So have you hosted people that have come to Israel? Have you been able to do that when people were flying and actually coming to Israel? Yeah, you've had people come here and you've been able to show them around and give them maybe a different perspective? Yeah,
definitely. So we run, so for Israelis, we run this course for students every year that, you know, we dig into the conflict. And we dig into, but also like in different things, in different issues that connected to the conflict, in order for them to be educated about the conflict from different point of view that they hear in their universities, because universities are far left in it.
Yeah.
So we gather them, about 15, 20, depends what year. This year we didn't have the opportunity, and we take them to Samaria and to Hebron and to Eastern Jerusalem, and we give them like lectures about security and water and international law, different things. And then they also have like projects in our organization. We do it with Israelis. We do it with, we speak with different groups that come from States, Europe, Australia, you know, different countries. So we give them like our point of view. We give them lectures, geopolitical, you know, view about what's happening. We're doing our best.
What do you think about the Arab population here in Israel? You know, do you think that they're getting more integrated into Israel? That looking around now, they see what's happening in the rest of the Middle East, and it may not be the easiest thing for them to stand up and sing Hatikva, you know, the national anthem, but there's also an appreciation, perhaps, of this country and what it's enabling them to do? Do you see a change in there? No, not so much?
Not sure. I'm not sure. I think, you know what? I think it's in our hands. I mean, we neglected the whole thing with the Arabs to the left and to the Arab party. Okay, there is this, how do you say, Reshima Mishutefet?
United joint list.
Yeah, the joint list of, you know, most of their parliament members are Arabs except one, who is worse than the others. So, I mean, we just, you know, we said, you know what, go to them. We're not interested. We didn't say it, but this is what we did. We are not talking to them. We're not trying to give, you know, whoever is pro-Israel or want to get more normalized and more involved in Israel. So we need to encourage him, or, you know, to give him a spot in our party, or whatever, to give them more, whatever. We need to know how to award these kind of people that are pro-Israel. We're not doing it. We're not trying enough. And after the elections, I wrote an article about it. I said, you know what? We just gave up. What a horrible mistake. We just gave up. You see, they want to get involved in politics. They vote for the Arab joint list, not because they have no choice. Who are they going to vote to? You want to vote to someone who's similar to you. So I don't think that most of the Arab population is going to vote for Likud or to vote for whatever, to Beit Yehudi. No, but it's unbelievable that the vast majority of the Arabs are voting to this extreme joint list, because the other lists are not, the other parties are not giving any voice to these people. The violence inside the Arab population and the Arab community is so high. I mean, it's crazy. And we're just shutting our eyes and we're not looking. So let's be involved. I do want them to have good life, not only because I don't want them to use this weapon against me or the crimes against me, because I want this 9 years old that lives in Fachem to have good life. That's it. So we need to get involved in this. I think that the Netanyahu, the former government of Netanyahu, and with Ayelet Shaked and Bennett, and they started a very good, it's not perfect, but I think that, I mean, they got this plan, an enormous plan of 15 trillion shekels, I think. Don't catch me in the number. But, you know, vast, how do you say, hashkaot?
Investment.
Yeah, investments in the Arab communities, in Arab cities, with police, with high tech, with women's going to work, different things, with the roads and, you know, everything.
Infrastructure.
Yeah. So, and, you know, the most right-wing government that ever was here in Israel, they did it, not the one before. And I think it's a very good thing, but you also need to, I mean, you need to know how to award the good voices there. And we're still not there.
Yeah, it's good that we have work to do. It's not going to get boring here. What do you think about the other major population that is also trying to integrate, the ultra-Orthodox? Do you have anything to do with them?
Well, yeah.
The Haredim.
Yeah. So, you know, Jerusalem has everything. So living in Jerusalem and being involved in the activist, you know, society. So you get to meet these different people, very interesting people, both Arabs and Haredi, that I would never meet. Oh, I don't know if never, but I don't know if I would meet if not. So I think that the Haredi population is getting through. I mean, first of all, it's huge. I mean, and even inside the Haredi, you know, there's so much differences between all, you have Litaim, and you have Hasidim, and you have Aguda, and you have Shas, and you have different communities, and each and every one of them are going through a very positive, most of them, okay, not all of them, very positive process of understanding that you need to be responsible for your own life, and you can't only lean on the government or on the rest of the people in Israel. So it's not, but in order to see a change, you need to be patient, really. We need to be patient, and we need to open our hands and to hug. Really, I really believe it. I have different things that I do not agree with them. I don't like that they don't have women in their parties, and I don't think, we have a lot of things to fight about, to fight on. But I think that it's if we'll fight, we will never see change. And I do believe that we need to see a change. We can see a change in this society. We don't have any choice. The demographic is playing a very big role in here. But, I love them. I really do. I don't like all the hate that going through the elections. We just saw it went extreme and extreme. And I think that we need to hug them, and we need to be with them.
Virtually in every way. Yes. But I think that the women are very much the key to their becoming more Israeli, because I think the last statistics are over 80% of ultra-Orthodox women work, because the deep value in their sector of their society is for the husband to learn Torah all day, but someone has to put food on the table. There aren't so many subsidies anymore. Those were taken off years ago, and they have large families. And the women are amazing. They really are. And wow, they're still having the children, because biology is biology. But they're getting out there, and many of them are brilliant and now they're going to school, and they're really learning different.
Very high moral.
Yes.
Very high moral. This is something that I used to work in World Beitar, and they brought in my last year, there was this Haredi woman accountant. Wow. She came on 8:30. She went back home 3:30 p.m. and in between, she didn't, she used to eat lunch during work. She didn't take any breaks. So very high moral. But if I'm referring to your question, I think that women are the key for many things. Okay, I'm not a feminist. I'm not calling myself a feminist, but I think that even in the Arab communities, and also in the Haredi communities, women are change leaders. Even if it's because of, this is where life taken them, but not only, because they have different, they see, I don't know why, but I think that these women are change leaders, and they're very, hopefully, listen, we're getting into a very, very challenging time now. Economy is going down, and we don't even see where it's going to.
We don't see the end.
And the Haredi communities used to lean a lot on government subsidies. And it's not going to get higher. And I'm very gentle. It's going to get lower and lower, because everyone will need to lean and to give his or her effort in this battle against the economical situation, against the medical situation. We need to, and so change, hopefully we'll see not more change than crisis. I wouldn't want to see these amazing people on hunger, or trying to get some money to their kids. But they need to understand, and I think that some of them are, that we're going to a different era today. We're on this boat together.
Well, and I think it was your article, the interview over Shabbat, where he spoke about the importance of communities, that everyone's looking to their governments to solve this problem, to give money, to figure out what to do with the businesses. But really, the main place that we need to start is within our communities. We need to make sure that there's nobody sick within our communities, and if there are, get them well, and gradually work out from there, and not expect it to come from top down, which is, and what you're doing, let's say with My Israel, which is grassroots, that's where the name comes from. It's bottom up, all right? Where you get little people to stop looking and say, somebody needs to do whatever. We're the somebodies. The little people are the somebodies. It's clear from the way you grew up that that's part of your genetics, all right? That, yeah, if you want it to be done, if you want Jews to live in the Judean hills, you're going to have to go and do it yourself.
Yep.
And build the community from the start up. So I see where all this is coming from, but I think that this also is going to translate it into a bigger picture around the country, maybe even around the world. That instead of just sitting around and waiting and getting depressed, and some people are getting really depressed, and this is a dangerous spot that we're in right now in terms of people's emotional health as well, and frustrated and not knowing what tomorrow will bring. And this is a recipe for some really, really tragic things to happen, is to say, okay, no one out there is going to really be able to solve this. I'm going to at least do what I can in my family, in my neighborhood, in my town, and then I think we will end up having a better society. Hopefully we'll come out of this with more connection.
I'm not a great believer in governments. I don't think that the government needs to do hasbara. I don't think the government needs to, I mean, even if the government is doing, for example, hasbara, this is some of the things that we do in My Israel. Israel advocacy. So this is some of the things that we do in My Israel. And then people saying, oh, why doesn't the government do it?
I've heard that so many
times.
The
government is not going to advocate for itself. I mean, this is not authentic when the government is saying, well, we didn't do any whatever, war crimes, okay, in Gaza. No, I want the people to say it. I don't want this minister to say it. It's not authentic. Nobody, just think about yourself sitting in the States or in Europe or whatever, in South Africa, and you hear this advocacy minister or whatever, we had this job once, saying, yes, Israel is good, Israel is great. No, it's not authentic. Will you believe it? No. I'm trying to bring the people voices. Okay, so I want them to say, you know what? This is A, B, and C happening. I'm trying, I just had a Zoom with BBYO in the States, this youth organization.
Right, neighborhood youth organization. Yeah.
Yeah, and I told them about my life in Kiryat Arba, and I don't want them to hear it from a minister or from a parliament member. I want them to hear it from me, because my parents are living there and my grandfather is living there. And when I go to Kiryat Arba with a car with plastic windows, this weird thing, right? This is our life, but it's weird. I want them to hear it from a mother. So this is, I'm not a great believer in governments. I think that there are some things that the government must do to decide about closure. I can't do it, not as a community, not as a personal, not as a family, but I can definitely take responsibility first about my family, and second, to try and build our community. And I have different communities that I belong to. We have like a synagogue, and we have schools community, and we have Israel Sheli, My Israel. So we have different communities that we can affect them. So for example, after Purim, this one guy from community got the corona. So half of the families in the community just got to how do I say bidud?
The isolation?
Yeah, the isolation. And the other half of the community took care of them and kept their heads on, above the water. Right. We didn't just, we didn't just bought things that they just needed and couldn't do it technically. We cooked them for Shabbat. We made chalot for Shabbat. We just showed them we care. So community is very important in these times of crisis. But yeah, I think we need to, I mean, if you want to close your synagogue, or you want do it responsible in a responsible way, the government won't do it for you. They won't send police officers to close each and every synagogue in Israel. No, you need to take care of your own community. And this is what we do here. And hopefully, and I know about tons of communities that do the same thing. So yeah, so it's not only about community, not only about ourselves, but it's a main thing of it.
And that's where it starts, and it can go out. So how does My Israel work when it comes to the diaspora? Because you talked about the Israeli college students that you teach, you educate them on, about Israel's reasons for being here and how to answer different questions. Are you also doing that in communities, not just Jewish communities, or maybe it is just Jewish communities outside of Israel, where people who love Israel are also finding themselves very much attacked, maybe more now than anything else, because it's been conflated with anti-Semitism and a lot of different movements of sudden, are pro-Palestinian, even though they have no idea what they're talking about. Are you able to reach people outside of Israel in North America and Europe, Australia, etc., and also help them to be able to stand on their feet and answer some of what's happening?
So I want to be honest. I do, like, we have the what, we have like the vision, we don't always have the how. Okay, so it's a recent thing that we just added into our agenda. I was 3 summers in Ramah, Wisconsin. This is where I met my husband. My husband was also in the Israeli delegation, Israeli Mishlachat, and we had to go all the way to Conover, Wisconsin, in order to meet each other. And then we got whatever. So I like the Israeli diaspora is something that I never knew it when I grew up in Kiryat Arba. I never had any connections to my brothers, across the ocean. This is something I found out, it's only after the army, when I went to Ramah, Wisconsin, and then I got, a new world just opened to me. And I continued later on. I used to work with youth from Russia, from South Africa, from Australia, from Uruguay, from South America, different communities around the world. And I think that one of the main, so this is myself, but I'm trying to bring it into My Israel, because I think that one of the main things that we need to do in these days is to connect the people in Israel with our brothers outside of Israel, brothers and sisters. And I'll tell you where do I think we need to put our emphasis on? I think that a lot of the connections of Israelis and diaspora Jews are especially between like more center left Israelis. And I think that we need to open it and to connect the center right of Israeli people, because I think that there's something we're missing. For example, I'll just let you know. So we put this Facebook post on the year of Pittsburgh, on the yahrzeit of Pittsburgh. Just
murders.
Yeah, we just put this, very simple post. We just put this very nice graphic. We remember our hearts is with you, and we got this. So a lot of the like comments are either condolences or make aliya. Okay, so there's 0 and 100. So there's nothing in between. And this guy just wrote a message to our Facebook page, a private message, and he said, "Why should I care about them? I mean, they are JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace. They're
why should Israelis care about diaspora Jews? Okay.
And why should I mean, and they are a NIF, the New Israel Fund, and they're whatever, So I said, so something is missing. I mean, the answer, I would love to that the Jews in diaspora will make aliyah tomorrow and will get to manage it. But I do know that aliyah is a very, very hard thing to do. And not everyone can do it or want to do it. And I don't think that the automatic answer for everything needs to be aliyah. Okay. I do want to talk to the Israeli more center right people or society and open this world of Israel Jewish diaspora. So this is one leg. The other leg is there. I was invited to Palo Alto, okay, on November before the whole wave of the corona. I was invited. I don't like going abroad, I have to admit, because I have 4 kids and it's a headache. Yeah. But then my husband needs to choose the clothes. Anyway, but so I don't like it. But then they convinced me and they said, you know what, Sarah, we have a conference, Z3, and your voice is important. They need to hear, like, the population in the Bay Area is very, very progressive, very liberal. And he said, the guy there, the very nice guy, Amitai, he said, you know what, they need to hear your voice. You have to come. Fantastic. So I left my amazing husband with 4 kids, and I left and I went there. And I spoke in this conference, and you know how important it was? Because they hear my opinion, they hear what I stand for. When I say I'm pro the Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria, and they just, blow up and say, but how come? And then with a smile, I just explain. So I don't know if I convinced anyone, but I opened a glimpse to my own views, and I went there to talk to them. Okay. I don't think we reach out enough. I think that Danny Dayan did a great job in this, and like he took
the Consul General. He's now done. Yeah. He's on his way back.
He's done. Correct. Yeah. So he did like a great progress in terms of like opening the right wing opinions or ideology to more, liberal parts of Jewish communities. And he tried to build bridges. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do. This is why I left everything here and went to 10 days to Palo Alto and Los Angeles and New York City, because I wanted to talk with people and I wanted to bring them my views and to talk to them. So I think that what we want to do, and we don't do it enough. So I said we have the why, we have the what we still don't have exactly the how. And I would love you to connect me later on and just, be partners of this. I would like to be this bridge. I would like my Israel to get and to open this world of world Jewry to Israeli to our followers who are more center-right.
So I'm going to put this out to people who are watching the webinar, that if they want to, you can write to me, eve@oneisraelfund.org. It's very easy. I will pass on your letter to Sara. And if you have any ideas about how to make this happen, obviously in the world now where people can't really be physically traveling, but we do have Zoom, and we do have the ability, sometimes it's even easier and less expensive, and you can still stay home with your kids. To be able to connect. It's not as real as being in the room, without a question. There's a limit as to what all these electronics can do. But in the meantime, in the next, whatever it's going to be, 6 months, a year, until we can actually go to different places, it's better than nothing, and it's a place to start. So any of you who are watching this wasn't just, to meet Sara and to hear her opinions. It's also a call to action, because if she can do it, you can do it. And one of the ways of getting ourselves out of feeling that our lives are out of control, because so much of our lives right now are out of our control. They are, let's face it, is to say, no, I love Israel, and I want to explain what's happening with Israel, and at least do that and feel, that you've not just brought meaning to your own life, but that you've helped keep Israel safer, because it all adds up. And as we said quite a few minutes ago, words matter, and negative words about Israel ultimately affect Israel's security and Israel's standing in the world. So every bit that we can all do together is really something. So I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing, and you know that you should continue with your columns. Hopefully they will be translated into English so that everybody can, you know, hear the things that you have to say. And I know this is probably not a fair question before we sign off. In addition to making My Israel a bigger platform, what else do you have cooking in your head that you would like to get done? There must be something.
I'll tell you. Everyone is asking me, where are you going to be a parliament member? Okay, if this is what you wanted to ask, if this is what you wanted to ask, so I'm asking this question for you. So I got some offers in these, you know, marathon elections that we just had. I chose not to because I just, you know, I have a 1-year-old kid.
Yes.
And so I chose, and I said, you know what? That's not the time for me. I need to be very, very, very safe with myself before I go to this challenge, because I'm not just going to sit there. I know myself. I'm going to run, and I would want to change the world. Okay, so if I have, you know, little kids, my oldest is heading 8 years old this year, this summer, and I have 6 years old and 4 years old, and then 1.5. So I need to raise these kids in, you know, to do it as a good mother. And I care about this place. I care about you guys. I care about the Israeli people, and the Jewish people. And I care about building this amazing country. So I'm going to be here, and I'm going to find different challenges, and maybe I'm going to be in the Knesset. I don't know. But if I'm going to be there, I'm going to do it because I think it's important and it's the right time. And I think that there are many things and many ways to contribute and many ways to challenge, you know, reality and to change reality. And hopefully, you know, I'll find myself in the best place I have, you know, that where I can fulfill my own aspirations, but also, you know, be a part of this amazing thing that's called the State of Israel.
Incredible. And it sounds to me like your priorities are right where they should be. And that, I really think, should be the definition of feminism, is knowing when you need to be home or focused on the kids and when not. And to find that balance, which is not always easy, but ultimately that family is the most important thing, as you started from, and you're going to continue. Sara Haetzni-Cohen, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight and for really giving us a glimpse into everything that you're doing, everything that you're accomplishing. And I know for sure that we haven't seen the last of you, not by a long shot. So mamash hatzlacha, like tremendous, you know, power and luck to you. Just not luck.
Thank you. And I'm available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and email. No TikTok.
Hard to not find you. Exactly. Okay. And again, you can always write to me, everyone, and I will put you through to Sara. And if you want to be involved with other things that One Israel Fund is doing to strengthen and keep the presence of Jews in Yehuda V'Shomron, then please be in touch with me. We have a lot going on. And during this time when you can't come and visit here physically, we're doing what we can via our webinars and via our virtual tours to bring Israel out to you and some of the people who are really the movers and shakers here in this country that you may not have been familiar with before because of the language barriers, etc. And now you are. So Sara Haetzni-Cohen is on the radar of more people after this evening. And once again, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining our webinar, and stay tuned. You can also tell someone who might have missed it that it'll be within the next couple of days. It'll be available on our Facebook page, and you can watch it freely and you can share it freely. And within the next couple of weeks, we will have someone else. So keep coming back to us, and we will do our best to keep you understanding what's really between the lines and behind the scenes in a lot of ways. So Eve Harow, Director of Tourism for One Israel Fund, thanks again to Shauna and everyone in the office for putting all this together. And I'm gonna say good night from the
Good
Judean
night.
Hills in Israel. Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.